there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. So today I wanted to do a little bit of an almost one layer card with a little bit of masking just to kind of keep it a little bit more interesting. So I am going to use the Gina masking magic paper. I have mentioned this before, but the reason why I love this masking paper so much is that it can hold so much ink and still not bleed through. And you will see that today that I absolutely saturate the actual masking paper. And I must admit, I wasn't sure if it was going to hold up, and it did. And that was really impressive. So you'll see today that when I add all of this liquid, it is going to hold up perfectly fine. I think that's one thing that I look for in products to make sure that I can rely upon them to actually do their job. I really want to make sure that if I'm going to put in all of this effort and energy in the other products that I'm using, that things are going to go to plan as much as I can. So that really helps me when making decisions about buying things like this masking paper. Now this is a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor paper that I have cut down to be 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and then I cut down all those little strips there of the masking paper. Now I actually did go ahead and make several of these cards, so at times you'll see kind of several versions on the screen, or at least a couple of versions, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through this one card today because I did them all pretty similar. I have just eyeballed where to put that masking paper, and you can kind of see the design. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but it will become clearer later on. And then put the excess little bits down behind the piece of paper. Now these are new to me at least, and I thought I would give these a little bit of a go. These are the Botanical stains from Cosmic Shimmer, and as far as I'm aware, there is only the 8 of them in this series or the set. The packaging on the back says that they are a water-based dye ink inspired by colours derived from the natural dyeing process of various plants. So they all look really nice to me, and they are kind of those natural tones. And the one on the bottom right-hand corner, the avocado colour, I was a little bit puzzled by that when I opened it up, given that it is a pinky kind of colour. However, apparently with a little bit more research, that is the colour that is derived from the stone of the avocado. So interesting, but I didn't know that, so there you go. Now I was really curious to use these. These bottles are 60 mils and they have a little glass dropper there. So yeah, I was kind of just figuring these out. I'd used these a couple of times off camera and then finally decided that I guess I would share them and you guys can make up your own mind. It's always fun to be introduced to products that I'm not familiar with, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be right for you. And I think my bottom line is that you can use any products to do this technique and lots of different techniques. I mean, is there any difference from using re-inkers and watering them down of the distress line, or using watercolor inks, or using watercolor pencils? I mean, not really. You can do this technique with any of them. For me, this was just a really fun little play and something that I definitely was excited to experiment with. But are they something crazy and different? Not really. But are they fun? Yes. And I do think that the colours are kind of different to anything that I have, at least. I do not own any Distress inks. I only own Distress Oxide inks. So for me, this was something different than I already had. But again, yeah, if you have something else, then go for gold. By all means, use that. My main focus for this channel always has been, and for all that I can see, always will be, about reusing the products that we have, making sure we get the best value for money out of stamp sets and die sets and things that we choose to invest in. But I guess that doesn't mean that it's fun for me to kind of try new products as well. So I do get little bits and pieces. I have a very small craft space. But if you've been watching my channel for even just a little bit of time, I hope that that is kind of what you take away from it, is that you will have things in your stash that you are able to use for pretty much every single one of my card making videos. So I hope that you are able to take at least some techniques from the videos, no matter what you have in your stash already. Now you can see here that the masking paper that I am using is getting well and truly soaked, and I must admit at about this point I had some doubts. And for this card in particular, I am using the blueberry color, the Italian plum color, and the hibiscus color. So I just chose 3 of them, and I dabbed up a little bit of the extra that was down there. Now, as I said, I was a little bit dubious at this point about what was going to happen underneath the masking paper, but I'm just going to go with it and heat dry all of this. Then I have added some little splatters using a stencil. It's kind of a more controlled splatter, I guess, and a little bit more patterned and uniformed. And then I'm using the coffee beans colour, which is just a brown colour, to add just a couple of little splashes here and there. I was kind of really trying it out more than anything, and I did that with a paintbrush. Now I'm actually going to move on to another one here, and I just wanted to show you the first part of how I went about creating this, because I'm going to use the tea leaves colour, the coffee beans colour, and the carrot top green colour. Now for the first one, you would have seen me just use the glass droppers that are in the bottles to kind of colour around, and I did actually have my water brush sitting there right beside me. But first of all, I was just going to try it and see if I could work it with the glass droppers, and it worked perfectly well. And then this one here, I wanted to go with a little bit more of a messy style, and so this one I did do with my water brush just so I had a little bit more control. But you can definitely, just have a play around and choose what you'd like to do. You can colour them in with your glass droppers. I feel like the liquid moved really well, but yeah, lots of different options. I did have lots of fun here. I am using the heat gun at almost the same time as I'm colouring, because that way I am getting lots of kind of good layers, but I can still move the colour around and kind of fill in all those little gaps, and then pick up a couple of little extra dots and things too. Now here is the big reveal, and this is pretty much where I thought this might not work. So when I pulled it back, I was really surprised to see that actually the lines had been kept pretty much crystal clear, and I was really impressed because that was a lot of liquid that was being added to these card fronts. So it did pretty well, and that, I guess, is why I purchased that product. It's why it's worthwhile for me, so that it does actually behave exactly how I want it to. So this reveal is always the fun part, and as I said, this is a very simple design today for card making. I was just sitting down and having a whole lot of fun with a little bit of masking. Just with those little stripes can add a whole lot to your card making, even if you have a really simple design. I have masked off the edges there with some post-it notes just so that I don't overstamp. And then before I stamp my main image, I'm going to use the Friendly Greetings. This one is the Bo Bunny stamp set, the Get Well Soon, and that is just a nice little sentiment that is going to go straight through the middle there. And I thought I may as well mask it, seeing as I had kind of the right size masking pieces beside me. So I'm just going to stamp this out in some VersaFine Onyx black ink. And this is a pigment ink, which even though that stamp is really little and fine detailed, it stamps it out beautifully and it's nice and easy to read. I will pop the mask over top. This is just, I'm reusing the one from one of my panels before. And then this stamp here is from the Tim Holtz Illustrated Garden stamp set. I got this stamp set not too long ago. I've already done a few videos on my channel using it, but I'm going to be making the most of this one. And then I'm stamping this out in some VersaFine clear ink in the purple. And one good thing about these VersaFine clear inks is that they are pigment, so they stamp the most beautiful detail. And one of the reasons why I chose to invest in the VersaFine clear inks is because if I stamp in any of the colors that I have and then add the clear embossing over top, that means that I don't have to have a whole range of clear embossing powders, because these are pigment inks. They stay wet a little bit longer, and that makes them really easy to emboss with. So that's another bonus for me. Now this panel here, I decided I would cut down just a little bit. I felt like the edges were just a tiny bit too wide, so I am not measuring really, I'm kind of eyeballing it. And then something that I should have done when I was originally had all those masks on, but I didn't think about it at the beginning, sorry. But I am going to do a little bit of inking up of the edges. And to do that, I really want to keep the lines white. So I'm just going to bring in a little post-it note, and I'm just going to kind of carefully go around those and mask off as I go. It took me a little minute, but nothing that I couldn't handle at all. Now, as I said, this is a very simple card, but it was really enjoyable. I loved playing with my inks, and I really love that simple effect that just that little bit of masking had. and what it can do to transform a really simple card design. So I am just going to finish off with my ink dauber here and add those little bits around the edges. There are lots of different things. You could add some enamel dots, you could add in some more color to the image, that whatever image you choose to put in the middle. You could put any image at all. You could use these backgrounds in so many different colors, and I had lots of fun putting together some color combinations and having a big play around, but I thought I would just show you guys the really kind of simple design, and I pretty much followed this theory with all of my cards. I did the same masking design, so they all ended up looking relatively similar, but I did have a whole lot of fun. Now this is how I make my card bases. I am using the Recollections cardstock at the moment, the 110 pound cardstock, and for us here in New Zealand I'm able to get this at the Spotlight stores. I know it's also available in Australia at Spotlight stores and widely available in the US and things. I do understand from my Facebook group that people are having a hard time getting hold of this at the moment, but hopefully they will get it in stock again really super soon. But I just cut all of my cardstocks and score them all myself, and I do like having a stash of them ready to go. Barring the fact that there is one layer of cardstock on the front, this is a single layer card. There is no dimension to it. If you are looking for any of the products that are used in the video today, if they are still available and haven't been discontinued, I will link them down in the description box below. So please have a wee check out there if you are looking for something that I have used in the video today. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed this really simple design using these inks that were really fun to have a play with, and some simple masking can go a really long way. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!